already the White House going in full DEFCON mode. That's why I suggest that this could be, if not a lethal blow, a devastating blow to the Trump presidency.
It is kryptonite, and it could very well take the president down. But I think that not only could it take the president down, I think it could shake the whole remaining confidence in our political system.
It's Friday, and it's another edition of Real Polling in Real Time with Zogby. And here we are. There's Jeremy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm good, and I'm John. And I'll kick it off. And, I do a weekly report card for the Washington Examiner. And I have to grade the president every week. And this week I'm going to give him an F, even though he did get his budget. He got it through Congress, slimmest of majorities. But I've been saying right along that I believe that Jeffrey Epstein is the kryptonite to this president. It's the one thing that can derail the Trump presidency. And it was a matter of time before some documents were released revealing email exchanges between Jeffrey Epstein and others, including one cryptically that he wrote to himself. I don't think we see the hardest of hard evidence yet, just suggestive evidence about how much Donald Trump was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, how much Donald Trump was involved with Virginia Joffrey, how much Donald Trump was involved, period. But what we do see is that there was involvement, that it was contrary to the public utterances of the president. We do see, interestingly already, the White House going in full DEFCON mode, to protect and defend the president of the United States. And we do know that this time there's more documentation. There's the Attorney General's study that had been done that wasn't released. We do know that there are Democratic names, plenty of them, allegedly on the Attorney General's desk and in these documents. But I'm going to suggest to you that from what I've seen over the years, that number one, these are being released, and there is not a diversion that's going to block big news on this. That whenever there's big news on Jeffrey Epstein, the president's numbers go down. He's at an average of 42% approval, but there are two polls in the 30s that are out. We're going to have to see ours, and we're going to have to see the polls of other organizations, but his average is down considerably from where it had been. It's in the low 40s. And I think what we're going to see is that with each release, it looks like some of his MAGA support is being chipped away. Now, you had the very bizarre instance of, the woman in New Mexico who was elected to a Democratic seat 52 days ago, just being sworn in now, because it was widely understood that once she was sworn in, she was going to be the 218th signature to the permission to release the Epstein documents, which she did. But prior to that, the president called actually to the Situation Room, Lauren Boebert, who has been a MAGA supporter, but she does not support the president on Epstein. And she was one of the co-signatories of release. She was called to the Situation Room with the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, and the FBI director, and told to change her vote. And God knows what she was promised or what she was threatened. I don't know. That's speculation. What I do know is that she refused to do that, and the vote went through. You're seeing a chipping away of MAGA support. I thought you were always going to see some of that and even more of it as things go on. And that's why I suggest that this could be the a not, if not a lethal blow, a devastating blow to the Trump presidency, because there's a time when, like Bill Clinton was soaring after his second term victory, and then all of the Monica Lewinsky stuff came out. But the president was presiding over peace and prosperity. He had charisma, a popularity. Most Americans did not want to make any changes. They treated impeachment as sacrosanct. And so his numbers actually stayed steady. In Trump's case, with his numbers going down, with some of his base leaving and quite possibly more leaving, is this the time where there could be close to a knockout blow? I'm going to suggest to stay tuned. For those who thought, including the president himself, that he was 100% invulnerable, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I know you have some thoughts.
Yeah. No, nobody's invulnerable, especially in this environment. Now, before I get to the Epstein stuff, I agree with you that we're going to wait for our numbers.
Yes.
And my sense is that they would be lower than last month. I don't really see how there's any bump. If there is a bump, I suppose it's because of the shutdown deal being made. But, that was long and painful for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking millions of Americans. I mean, the 42 million Americans on SNAP benefits who were, waiting on a knife's edge for, when is their account going to, when is the money going to drop? That's 42 million Americans. The fact that we averted that catastrophe, I was worried about if this had continued longer, the risk for social unrest would only increase. But okay, that's out of the way now. But you still have the cost of living issue, and that played out big time in New Jersey, and it played out in Virginia as well. Because it's not just the 42 million Americans on SNAP benefits; it's also the millions of Americans who work for the federal government, and not just the federal government, but the contractors. And that you can comfortably say millions of Americans. And so that played out in Virginia. But it's not only that. Now there's all this talk about Venezuela. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from? We were accustomed over the summer to being very nervous about Ukraine spiraling out of control, a war, a growing war, expanding beyond a proxy war. Of course, Israel and Iran, and make no mistake, those are still looming threats for the geopolitical order, which would impact the United States, which is already on the edge financially. But now you throw into the mix Venezuela, and a poll came out today from Reuters, Ipsos, showing that only 29% of Americans support what is going on. And look, even though you can say these are drug cartels and these are violent criminals, the fact of the matter, the question said, do they support the killing of these type of individuals and bypassing the judicial process? And not surprisingly, only 29% supported. Now, the bulk of that support clearly came from Republicans, but when you look at Democrats and independent voters, they can't get on board with that because they know that if that becomes normalized, there's a greater potential for that trend to come home. And nobody wants to see that. The entire bypassing of a judicial process, even if we're talking about the most vile criminals in the world. So, and I'm going to tie this all into how this goes into the midterms, but I'm going to put that on hold for a second and now address the Epstein story, which, I first became aware of in 2015, and it just keeps reemerging. It comes and it goes. It's like a franchise horror film. It just keeps churning out. I'm going to look at the broader and bigger picture here. I agree with you. It is kryptonite, and it could very well take the president down. But I think that not only could it take the president down, I think it could shake the whole remaining confidence in our political system. Because my question is, and I don't know the answer to this, but if we have some serious revelations that are tantamount to a smoking gun, and you've already alluded to the vast array of individuals who are implicated in this awful story, is any release of files confined to one political party? The fallout, right, by nature, just because of how many individuals are on that list, I think you see what I'm getting at. We're talking about if it's proven that Donald Trump had some serious involvement, then we're going to learn about a lot of other people and what that would do to the remaining confidence in our political system. I think is just unbelievable.
Can I interject here? Can I interject here? Yeah, because yeah, that's true. I mean, there allegedly are some very big name Democrats, and Democratic donors,
and beyond politics too.
In what?
And beyond politics.
And beyond politics, sure. The point is, there's only one president, and the president, said he wasn't on the ballot in New Jersey and Virginia. Oh, he was on the ballot in New Jersey and Virginia. This was a drubbing that he took in both states. These ended up not being close at all. And his approval rating in those two states was dismal. And so in this instance, the president is the lightning rod here. And it appears that, look, we're dealing with a bunch of rogues. I mean, if Jeffrey Epstein is a character witness, come on. But apparently he has firsthand knowledge of Donald Trump, and that is because he has spent a lot of time with Donald Trump. And do we want a president of the United States who has spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein? But he's the president. He's the chief law enforcer, and it will not reflect well on him, and it will damage the Republican Party. I mean, my hunch is you're going to start to see a slow chipping away of Republicans, and then maybe a mass movement, because he'll be deadly come the 26 elections.
We're in 100% agreement on that, and I think that I made that very clear.
Mm-hmm.
There's no debating that. This isn't this isn't a counterattack. This is a discussion, and what I'm saying is, if you find the smoking gun, that discovery process is not going to be just confined to him. I'm only making the observation that if we find out this, if we discover the smoking gun, it will have the potential to rattle the faith in our system, because it will automatically implicate a lot of other individuals. So why does all of this matter, other than for obvious reasons? But we're trying to look forward to the midterms, and I'll keep this very simple. I can't say, based on my reading of the data and the unfolding of events, I can't use the term it's competitive, because competition implies that the two parties competing against each other are making ground and are doing very well. Now, on the surface, you could say, look at New Jersey and look at Virginia and look at New York City. But you and I know that that was a natural backlash against the president's performance in the first year, which is very typical, right? That was the same thing that happened following the first 100 days of Biden. Remember, Virginia swung back MAGA from Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, but what I want to say is that it's not so much that the Democrats, in my view, have their mojo back, because the reality is they face a split within their party between this growing trend of urban socialists, right? We saw the victory in New York City. We just saw the victory of a mayor in Seattle. That's going to grow. But I don't know that Democrats are immediately ready to resolve their division, just as it's the same case that we're seeing in the Republican Party. There's a growing rift in the party. So this is really interesting. This is an interesting dynamic that both political parties are going into the midterms with some serious divisions within their parties.
Total agreement. I'm just going to end my comments by just wondering out loud, on another front, this big, beautiful bill has been passed. And so now what we hear is that furloughed workers are coming back. Bonus checks for those, especially in transportation, as I understand it, TSA agents, flight controllers, are getting a $10,000 bonus on top of their back pay and their current checks. And so where does that money come from? And wasn't all of this part of the Republican agenda to reduce the deficit? And if you're talking about reducing the deficit and shutting down the government for 42 days to save money on the backs of federal employees and Medicaid recipients and SNAP recipients, and then a lot of this money is going to be respent, where is the savings? And that is a real hole, I think, in the Republican argument. Now, I'm a Democrat. I'm not promoting a Democratic agenda, because I frankly don't know what the hell the Democratic agenda really is, except to not be Republican at this point. But I am suggesting that it's not a very good thing to be a Republican these days. They took a drubbing on November 4th. So not only Trump, they did too. This is this is where I'm at.
Yeah. And, I think when you cut through it all, I think we're largely in agreement on the performance of both parties.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just using slightly different language. I think in the big picture, we're in agreement.
But I'll end by quoting the superhero of all time, Superman. I'm getting weak now. I'm getting weaker. I can barely breathe. That's Superman on Kryptonite.
Well, I can't really say much. That's a great way to end it.
All right. Have a good week.
You too. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks.